Today, I'm going to be discussing the basics involved in account setup. In other words, I'm going to explain how an attendee's account is structured, how it's typically set up, and then review the options available to optimize the account for organizations with multiple business units. Let's start with a couple of terms you should be familiar with. The term organization refers to the primary account. Attendees uses an enterprise organization hierarchy. An organization can own sub-organizations, which we call business units. Each business unit can own sub-business units, and each organization or business unit can own its own catalog of events. Let's take a look at this visualization to get a better idea of what I'm talking about. As we can see, the organization occupies the top position. Underneath are three business units: marketing, sales, and customer success. And under the marketing business unit, there are two sub-business units: demand gen and field marketing. Finally, note that events can be created and managed under any level, but typically events are managed under a business unit or sub-business unit. So you may be thinking, how should I optimize the structure of my organization? For most accounts, we recommend starting with one business unit under the organization. New business units can be added as your needs require. But if at the outset you foresee distinct groups managing different types of events, it may make sense to segment your account into multiple business units in the beginning. Let's talk about another reason to take this approach. One reason is because of shared resources. The organization can manage a variety of assets, data, and configurations between business units, which allows super admins, which we call owners, to make key decisions about how each business unit operates. So the resources that can be shared between business units and managed by the organization include website templates, authentication methods, and global registration form fields. So now that we've seen the role an organization plays in the account, what are the benefits of having business units? The benefits of business units include that a single account with a single subscription can have multiple business units. This allows you to organize or segment your account into separate entities that can function independently with their own events, teams and permissions, meaning how admins operate in the account, their own default registration form, their own authentication methods, which I've mentioned are managed by the organization, localizations, metadata, and their own portal sites. And we'll discuss some of these terms in a future session. So let's take a look at a simple example. Organization A has 4 business units that host events. It's segmented its account by department. Each of these teams, field marketing, sales, corporate, and retail, will have their own independent business unit and be able to manage their own portfolio of events. They will be able to have their own teams and permissions, their own metrics, and their own objectives. Now let's take a look at another quick example. So in this scenario, Organization B has 3 regional entities: North America, EMEA, and Asia Pacific. So they have determined that it made most sense to segment their account by region instead of by department. Now each region can have its own business unit that manages their events with their own teams and permissions, their own metrics, and their own objectives. Now I will quickly point out that you can also accomplish a similar segmentation by using teams. Each business unit or organization can create teams, each with their own group of team members, access to a specific set of events, and critically, their own permissions. Which brings me to my next slide. So when we're talking about admins, the individuals who are working in the Attendees platform and creating and managing events, well, we have 2 levels of admins. We have the concept of owners and team members. Owners have full permissions. They can invite other owners, invite team members, create teams, and otherwise act like a team member. Team members have limited permissions and belong to a team. And a team is a group of team members that shares a set of permissions and access to a set of events. So think of teams as enabling a defined set of permissions similar to roles. So let's take our first look at the Attendees platform and take a look at the Teams tab. Here I am on my organization dashboard. As I mentioned earlier, the organization is the top level of an account. I want to manage the admins of this organization, so I'm going to go to the Teams tab here on the left-hand sidebar. Now, permissions are specific to an organization or business unit. So in other words, if you're an owner of an organization, you won't automatically have owner permissions for a business unit managed by that organization. So on this interface, we can see some of the terms we just spoke about: teams, owners, and team members. So let's start by inviting an owner, an admin with full permissions. All I need to do is add an email address into this field and send an invite. The recipient will receive the invite with a link which they can follow to create an Attendees account, or if they already have one, they'll simply be added as an owner of this organization. Now let's take a look at how to configure a team and invite team members. First, I'll click on the Teams tab, and then I can either create a new team, or I can edit one of the teams created by default. When I set up a team, I'll need to work from these three tabs. Let's start on the right. First, we'll set permissions. These sections relate to the various areas of the event dashboard that the team members may have access to. You can configure the permissions to best suit the workflow of your team. Next, I'll select which events this team has access to. Unfortunately, we haven't created any events, so there aren't any events to add, but we'll be able to provide access to this team when we begin to create events. Finally, like the owner screen, we just need to input an email address and send an invite to the people we would like to join our team. So now that we've seen how we go about setting up permissions for this organization, let's jump back to our slide deck. Next, let's talk about themes and templates for attendees event websites. First, a theme is an original aesthetic style, layout design, and overall look and feel of a website. It is, in a sense, the first complete version of a website. Themes are created by developers. Attendees has several themes, from which all of our website templates have been created. So what's a website template? A template is a variation of a theme. A template is based upon a theme but may use different colors, content, layouts, pages, and fonts, but the underlying structure of the site remains the same. Attendees has also released a number of templates that are available to our customers, but you have the ability to create your own template, called a user template, by saving an event website as a template from the Site Manager screen. This is an important way to save time and make your event creation process fast and efficient. For example, you could take an existing theme or template, add your company's branding and color palette, the font you want to use, some stock images, and some marketing copy, and then save this website as a template so you can leverage your work and save time by using the same configuration next time you create an event. You don't have to add your branding, colors, fonts, and images every time. You can begin from a saved template. Let's touch upon another important concept: member accounts. In this case, we're talking about the individuals who will be registering for your events, not the admins on your team. So to register for events that use authentications, as most do, a user must create an account. This is known as a member account. It's important to distinguish this from team members who will be managing your events. For example, if I was going to register for an event, I would land on an Attendees event website, and then I'd need to sign up for a member account or sign into my existing member account to proceed with registration. I will use my member account to sign in every time I want to register for an event. Member accounts for each business unit roll up to the parent organization. This allows the organization account owners to see the total number of member accounts for the organization as a whole, as well as the events each member has registered for. So how does an individual sign up for or sign into a member account? They will use one of three authentication methods. We use authentications to verify the identity of attendees who register for your organization's events. You assign an authentication method or set of authentication methods to each event, and this is managed on the organization level. An individual can create or sign into a member account using one of these authentication methods, either Attendees single sign-on, which is name, email, and password. You could also choose to allow them to create or sign into a member account using their Facebook account. And finally, we can work with you to set up your own custom authentication method via OAuth. A current supported authentication method widely used in Attendees is Adobe ID. So let's wrap things up by jumping back into my organization dashboard and see where we would manage authentications. Under the Organization tab, we see this Authentications menu item. We have two of the three options I just described. Let's take a look at the Attendees single sign-on authentication. Here we have an interface where we can configure if this authentication method is A, enabled, B, mandatory, or C, default on but not mandatory. We strongly urge you to have at least one of the three types of authentication set as mandatory. This will require one of your owners or team members to ensure authentication is enabled when they create an event. If you create an event without any authentication enabled, attendees cannot schedule sessions or create personal schedules. Attendees cannot access most surveys. Attendees cannot update their registration information. Attendees cannot sign in to the Attendees mobile app, and more. So please ensure that you've set an authentication method to be mandatory, or speak to Attendees support or your CSM if you require more information. This brings us to the end of the account setup training session. Thanks for watching.